Hello, everyone. Time again for another great album review. This time we're looking at Keith Richards' Talk is Cheap, album inspired by Ace Frehley. Anyways, released October 3rd, 1988. After Dirty Work, Mick is going solo, so Keith figures he'll try a little bit of solo work himself. There's a lot of people on this record, too many to name, but some you're probably familiar with. Wadey Wachtel, Bobby Keys makes an appearance. Steve Jordan is all over the record. And Mick Taylor even plays guitar on I Could Have Stood You Up. Well, anyways, one thing that stands out to this record before I get started with all my wonderful thoughts on the songs is that you usually think of, or I think of Mick being the kind of funky one in the band and Keith wanting to keep everything more blues and rock, but there are a few tunes on here where you can hear that Keith probably has more to do with those kind of funky sort of sounds and tunes that the Stones had. For number one, this record opens up with a song called Big Enough, and the riff and everything kind of reminds me a little bit of Hot Stuff from Black and Blue or Dance Part 1 from Emotional Rescue, and the song has that kind of vibe to it where it's really not like a rock song per se, and there's not like a big chorus. It just kind of has that funky, kind of hot stuff type groove to it. And you got to figure if you're thinking that's coming from Mick, then maybe Keith was a lot more into that stuff than we thought. And the second song, but it's a good song to open the record with. I don't know if it's very memorable because there's not that overly catchy chorus to it. Then the next one, Take It So Hard, which was the one that got played on the radio a lot, and they had a video for it. And that one's a decent song, nothing too spectacular, but, pretty decent. Then they move on to number three, which is a song called Struggle. And it's interesting that this record comes out a year before Steel Wheels, because this really sounds like a song that you kind of put on Steel Wheels with like the way it sounds, the guitar riff. It's an okay, just decent rock song. Then the next one, I Could Have Stood You Up, has Mick Taylor on guitar, and this is kind of the only way I describe it, like a bebop kind of song. And Mick, you can tell by the opening riff that that's probably, it's not really like a riff per se, but guitar lick that really has Mick Taylor all over it. And then there's like a few bits and pieces of guitar work where yeah, that's Mick Taylor. And it'd be kind of cool if he was on the whole record. They just got together again and just said, Keith is going to do his thing and have Mick throw those awesome solos like he did in that late 60s, early 70s period with the Stones. But, it's kind of cool. It would be cool if had more of Mick's guitar on this song, but you get to hear it and it's just cool to hear it again. And we move on to Make No Mistake. This is kind of a mid-tempo ballad, and Keith is singing really, really soft here instead of trying to push it out, which he does pretty well. I mean, I know Keith's not like the greatest singer. He's got a very unique style, and it's more about the attitude. And here he's just kind of softly singing this one. It's a pretty decent song that I kind of like. And another one coming up, You Don't Move Me. And it's another softer kind of song. Rumor has it that the lyrics are about Mick, and I don't know if that's true or not. It could be about pretty much anybody, but maybe a few jabs at his old pal Mick. I don't know. But anyways, they eventually got over it and they made a record a year later, so I guess it didn't bother either guy too much. Then the next side of the album, I guess we don't have albums anymore, but CD or however you're listening to this, How I Wish. The riff really reminds me of Happy, and I like this song, but there are certain songs on here that there's no doubt to me they'd be a lot better if Mick were singing the songs and they were like a Stones song. And this one, How I Wish, it could be like one of those mid 70s Stones kind of songs, and it'd be really good if Mick were singing on it. Then you go to Rock a While. It's not super reggae, but I would call it kind of a semi reggae type tune, and it just kind of goes on a little too long. Maybe one of those self-indulgent things Keith just wants to put on here because he likes that style of music. Then we go into Whip It Up. Once again, it's like this song sounds like it should have been a little bit heavier, and once again, to beat the dead horse, if Mick were singing this, I think it'd be a lot better. And, that's just the limitations of Keith's voice. And I know this is a Keith solo album, so it's like I should stop bringing up Mick. But there are certain songs that if they were Stone songs and Mick were singing, there'd definitely be quite a bit of an improvement. Then we go to Locked Away. And it starts kind of slow and soft, but it's pretty good, although it's kind of long. It's one of those, I think, over 5 minutes long, and it gets to be, when you got a song that long, maybe they could cut it down a minute or two and it would be fine. Then we close it out with It Means a Lot. And this is another one of those, like, if you're familiar with that song Danny, California by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, the drum beat in the beginning kind of reminds me of that. And this came out a long time before that, so maybe they ripped it off. And this kind of sounds like one of those Stone sort of funky tunes, hot stuff, dance, too much blood. So you really get that vibe that maybe Keith had sort of more of the funky blood in him, and Mick was kind of going along with him, and that's how they came up with some of those great funky Stone songs. Because I always had the impression it was probably Mick going to Keith like, hey, let's do this. This will be really cool. And Keith kind of going along with it. But at the end of the day, this is a pretty decent record. Is it better than Mick's solo record, She's the Boss? I would say maybe for like a pure standpoint, I think Keith was trying to be true to himself here and do the kind of songs that he wants to. I don't think he was trying to make hit tunes like Mick may have been going more commercialistic on his stuff, trying to get played on the radio. I don't think that was Keith's concern here. I think he just wanted to put together a band of guys and do stuff that he liked. It's an enjoyable record, but the only elephant in the room is it kind of reminds me a little bit of an Ace Frehley solo record where Keith is really cool singing a song or two on a Stones record, but when you do have a whole record of him with his voice, it can get to wear on you a little bit because obviously he just doesn't have the great singing voice. I like it, it's unique, but it's not that, there's a reason he's not the lead singer of the Stones, and there's a reason Ace Frehley wasn't the lead singer of Kiss. They're good for a tune or two, and that's how I would listen to this record. Maybe not the whole thing at once, but just throw on a song or two, and it's pretty cool. And it definitely shows how Keith is definitely an equal partner in that Mick and Keith relationship. Because I always think it's kind of like Keith kind of coming up with these riffs and Mick just doing everything else. But you can really tell that he has a lot more influence on the Stones sound from listening to this record. Well, anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. And we'll see you again next time, and have a wonderful day, night, or whatever you're going to do for the rest of your time here on the face of the earth. Have a great day. Goodbye.